Franz Bäke was a German armored officer whose military career stretched across both world wars and reflected the turbulent changes that shaped Germany in the first half of the 20th century. He was born on February 28, 1898, in the province of Westphalia, into a society that valued discipline, duty, and national pride. His early life was unremarkable in many ways, but like so many young men of his generation, the outbreak of the First World War pulled him into a military path long before he had fully considered what that life would mean. At 17, he volunteered for service, entering an army already deeply entrenched in a conflict that would reshape Europe. Though still very young, he experienced the brutal realities of modern warfare and carried those lessons into the interwar period. After the war ended in 1918, Germany went through political turmoil, economic hardship, and strict military limitations under the Treaty of Versailles. Bäke, however, remained connected to military life, even as he pursued a civilian career as a dentist. This combination of professional training and continued reserve service became fairly common among former soldiers who were forced to adapt to the reduced military opportunities of the Weimar era. He balanced his civilian work with part-time duties in the Reichswehr, the small and tightly regulated German army allowed by the treaty. During these years, he gained a reputation for discipline, seriousness, and technical skill. He also kept pace with Germany's slow but steady move toward mechanized warfare, which would later define his role in the Second World War. When the Nazi government came to power in 1933, it began rebuilding and expanding the military at a rapid pace. Like many officers, Bäke benefited from the expansion, re-entering full-time military service before the outbreak of war in 1939. His technical background, combined with experience in both infantry and mechanized units, helped place him in the fast-growing Panzerwaffe, the armored branch of the German army. In the early stages of the Second World War, he served in various armored formations as Germany launched campaigns across Europe. Although he was not among the most famous tank commanders at the time, his reputation for methodical leadership and tactical awareness grew steadily. Bäke's career gained more attention during the later years of the war, particularly on the Eastern Front, where he held several significant combat commands. The fighting in the East was vast in scale and brutal in intensity, with harsh weather, immense distances, and determined Soviet resistance, creating conditions far different from those in Western Europe. Bäke proved to be an effective armored commander in these environments, often placed in situations where German units were required to counterattack, delay, or rescue encircled forces. His ability to organize mixed groups of tanks, armored vehicles, and infantry under pressure became one of his defining qualities. By 1943, Bäke commanded armored formations that were frequently called upon to stabilize collapsing fronts. The Battle of Kursk, one of the largest tank battles in history, marked a turning point in the war. Although Bäke's personal role in that battle was only part of a much larger effort, he was involved in several key operations afterward, when German forces were forced into retreat. It was during these difficult periods that he earned recognition for his leadership, eventually receiving high military awards. These awards reflected battlefield performance rather than broad strategic impact, and his commands were typically at the regimental or brigade level, where tactical success was possible, even when the overall situation was deteriorating. As the war continued, the German army relied increasingly on officers like Bäke, who could conduct mobile defensive operations. In early 1944, he led a special armored group that became known informally as Bäke's Kampfgruppe. These improvised formations were assembled from available units to address urgent problems on the front. During this period, Bäke's group took part in attempts to relieve German forces trapped in pockets created by Soviet advances. One of his better-known actions occurred in the Cherkasy-Korsun pocket, where German troops were surrounded and desperately trying to break out. Bäke's armor provided cover and helped open temporary corridors, allowing some forces to escape before the pocket finally collapsed. While this did not change the broader course of the war, it demonstrated his ability to direct coordinated armored movements under extreme conditions. As the German military situation worsened, Bäke's units continued to fight in retreat across Eastern Europe. He commanded formations equipped with heavy tanks, such as the Tiger and Panther, machines known for their armor and firepower, but also for mechanical difficulties and limited numbers. Managing these vehicles effectively required careful planning, skilled crews, and well-timed maneuvers, especially as fuel shortages and logistical breakdowns became common. Bäke's technical mindset and preference for organized tactics suited these challenges, though no amount of skill could overcome the strategic realities Germany faced by late 1944 and 1945. Throughout the war, Bäke earned a reputation as a disciplined, steady commander, rather than a flamboyant or widely celebrated one. While some German officers became well known through propaganda or personal ambition, Bäke remained more reserved. His leadership style emphasized efficiency, clear communication, and practical problem-solving. At the same time, he was part of a military structure, serving a regime responsible for immense suffering, aggression, and atrocities across Europe. His actions as an armored commander were tied to the broader aims of the German war effort, and understanding his life requires acknowledging both his personal qualities and the context in which he served. With Germany's defeat in 1945, Bäke was captured by Allied forces. Unlike some higher-ranking officers, he was not heavily involved in political matters, and after a period of detention, he was released. Returning to civilian life, he resumed his profession in dentistry. This post-war phase demonstrated the stark contrast between the intensity of his wartime responsibilities and the quieter life that followed. Many former officers struggled to adjust, but accounts suggest that Bäke focused on rebuilding his life rather than seeking public recognition or involvement in political debates. The decades after the war were a time of rebuilding for Germany, both physically and morally. Former military officers faced varying degrees of scrutiny, and historians continued to debate their roles within the Nazi state. Bäke lived a relatively private life, away from the spotlight that some veterans pursued. His experiences were representative of many German officers who had been skilled professionals within a destructive system, carrying with them memories of a conflict that reshaped the world and left long-lasting consequences. Franz Bäke died on December 12, 1978, living long enough to witness Germany's recovery, division, and stabilization during the Cold War. His life spanned the Imperial era, the Weimar Republic, the Nazi regime, the devastation of the Second World War, and the post-war reconstruction of West Germany. Understanding his biography involves not only describing his military achievements, but also situating them within a century marked by upheaval, violence, and political extremism. He remains a figure of historical interest mainly within studies of armored warfare and German military organization. Researchers who examine his career often focus on his tactical abilities and the specific armored actions he directed. At the same time, modern interpretations take care to avoid romanticizing or glorifying the broader military context in which he served. His story offers insight into how individuals navigated the shifting landscapes of German society, how professional soldiers adapted to new technologies and doctrines, and how they later reintegrated into civilian life after the collapse of the regime they once served.